Hi everyone, welcome to Social Hour. This is week 5. So I'm Adrian, and this week I don't really have too much of an agenda. In the past few weeks I've had sort of topics that we were covering. This week I just really wanted to kind of go over some stuff that we talked about before. There's a few resources that have been updated. So I wanted to give sort of just an update on information resources, sort of chat about where we are right now with reopening and all of that. Yeah, so that's sort of the non-agenda agenda, if you will. Like always, we'll start with 3 deep breaths, and then we'll move to our ACT card activity. So starting off, like always, 3 deep breaths. Deep breath in, hold at the top, deep breath out. Eyes open, eyes closed, whatever is comfortable for you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll start. Breathe in. And breathe out. And breathe in. And breathe out. Last one, make it really deep. Breathe in. Breathe out. Shake it out, shake it out. I'm standing, so sometimes it helps to sort of shake out. I shift a lot, moving around. Since working from home, it's been very interesting because, you know, I'm in a very much smaller space than when I would be in the clinic. So getting up and taking breaks from sitting, if you will, which sounds weird, has been really helpful and really important. So there's some days that I have made like a makeshift standing desk using my ironing board and a few boxes, which is what we're using right now. But, you know, it's helpful. It helps to relieve some of the pressure and the strain from sitting for, you know, 5-6 hours at a time. You know, and since we're not able to sort of get up and really walk around a clinic space, it's been helpful for me at least to stand while I'm working. So I say all that to say that I'm standing. So if you notice me shifting around, that's what's happening there. So let's go ahead and we'll do our card exercise. So again, I shuffled these before. I'm not the best shuffler, but so I always just sort of pick blindly from the middle. So this one today, topic is aware. And it says disengaging your autopilot. Interrupt your mental autopilot by paying attention to what you're doing on purpose. Turn off the radio. Hold the steering wheel and feel its texture. Notice where your foot makes contact with the gas pedal. Take note of what you observe. So I think in this example, they're talking about driving. You know, especially if any of you are commuters, driving tends to become this sort of automatic thing. I don't know if any of you have ever had the sort of weird dissociative experience of driving somewhere and you get really sort of lost in thought, autopilot, and all of a sudden you realize that you've gone 6 blocks, you've gone through 5 different stoplights, and you sort of have to stop and think, were all of those lights green? So that's sort of like that autopilot, right? We're just sort of operating automatically and we're not really thinking. So what this is inviting us to do is to sort of stop, take a second and really just engage with everything around you. You know, what does the seat underneath you feel like? What's the temperature of the car? What does the steering wheel feel like? You know, notice the amount of pressure that you're using on the gas pedal. Just all of those little things to just sort of bring yourself into that moment. And you can sort of apply that in different aspects of your life too, right? It's sort of this meditative, mindful way of just doing everyday things. When people talk about meditation, a lot of times they think that meditation is doing nothing or being still. But really, I think meditating and mindfulness, sort of the key things of that is being present in the moment. And here, you know, just noting what you observe. There's a exercise that we do in meditation and mindfulness, it's called the body scan. And a lot of times we do that when we're talking about like chronic pain or sort of this generalized anxiety or generalized pain. And it's really to sort of help you focus on each part of your body and think about it and feel it so that you can really sort of narrow down where the pain or where you're feeling the anxiety. Especially with anxiety, you can just sort of have this overwhelming sense of being anxious. But sometimes when you stop and sort of think about what's going on and what you're feeling, you can really hone in on it and narrow it down. And if, some people feel anxiety more in their chest, or some people feel it more in their tummy area. Sort of slowing down and disengaging the autopilot can help us to sort of focus on that and really feel what it is and how can we move past it. It's sort of off the topic of the driving thing, but I think really the key point is just bringing your awareness into whatever it is that you're doing. I mentioned before, sort of this shifting that I'm doing, and that's really just sort of listening to my body and shifting depending on what feels comfortable and what feels maybe uncomfortable, and just sort of trying to be as comfortable as I can and as active. So yeah, so with that card, really just thinking about turning off autopilot and being present in whatever it is that you're doing. So with that, like I said, I don't really have an agenda. I did want to talk about sort of where we are in San Diego, what's happening with the HTC. We are sort of collectively, I think, in San Diego moving towards opening up things a little bit more. Restaurants have reopened for sit down and dine in. Not all of them, but most of them are sort of working towards some way to have people come back in. I know that the governor just okayed barbershops and salons to reopen, and that's in process right now. But a word of caution or a word of just sort of advice. We really want to make it aware, or make people aware. That came out weird. Make people aware that we still need to be vigilant, and we still need to practice hand hygiene and practice a safe distance from each other. Still limiting the gatherings and still limiting interaction with people outside of your immediate household. Yes, there has been scientific data that's come out about the number of infections and sort of where we're at collectively, but that doesn't mean that we're completely out of the woods. We're not, in the green yet, and we can't go out and go back to how things were before. So, the nurses and myself are really sort of working on making sure that folks understand that message right now. And, yes, you can start to go back and do things that are a little more normal, if you will, sort of back to doing some of the things that you did before. But there's all of these new precautions and all of these new things that we have to do. It's sort of like, when we first started all of these stay-at-home things, and we were going out for essential needs, so we were going to the grocery store or the pharmacy. We were keeping distance from other customers or other people in the stores, using hand sanitizer, making sure that when you come home, sometimes people change their clothes anytime they come in from outside. So I think just making sure that we're still doing those things. We still don't have a vaccine. We still don't have really a narrowed treatment for COVID. Yes, testing has sort of ramped up, and that's good, but there's still so many unknowns, and we still don't know where this is going or what things will look like here in the next few weeks or months. It was interesting this past weekend with the holiday. I've been staying at home mostly, but I did go for a drive this weekend, and going out and seeing people at the beaches and all that, and without masks. Um, I understand the desire and the need to be outside and be outdoors, and a mask can feel restrictive, but it's a safety concern, and it really is to keep you and others safe and to keep you and others healthy. Um, some of my colleagues and some of my friends who are nurses or physicians have to wear masks for 8 to 12 hours per day. So I think, really having to drive that message home of making sure that you're wearing a mask anytime you leave home. And again, just maintaining that 6 feet distance from other people, and making sure that you're washing and sanitizing your hands anytime you touch things. I think for the most part, people are doing well. I just think that as we sort of get further and further into this reopening, I don't want it to sort of fall by the wayside, and I don't want people to get complacent or think, oh, things are opening, so I think we're okay, and we can go back to how things were before. I don't know that we'll ever get back to how things were before, or at least not, immediately. So continue to do those things, and hopefully we can get back to some sort of how things were before sooner rather than later. The other thing I wanted to talk about was sort of an update on some resources. So I know that in the past I had talked about San Diego Food Bank and some of the programs that they were doing. And then I also talked about Feeding San Diego and their distributions. The main one is still at Qualcomm, or SDCCU Stadium, whatever the name is now. But the stadium in Mission Valley, that's Saturdays at 9. There are a few other ones, and that can be found on their website, which I could pull up really quickly. So they are feedingsandiego.org. And then if you go, so there's the website. And then there's on the bar up top, sort of like the title bar, there's a COVID response drop-down menu. You click on Find Food. And it can sort by address and by zip. I can find the one closest to you. There's just a little map with all the little pins. Programs are different, so there's some that have eligibility requirements, some that have no need to call. So like that one for Qualcomm, there's no place you call, you just sort of show up. So there's some different ones. There's that. San Diego Food Bank is still doing their distributions. They're still doing their emergency one, which is mostly non-perishables and shelf-stable items, so like pastas, rices, canned goods. Their neighborhood food distributions are the ones where they do like fresh produce and fresh fruit and stuff, and those also are sort of rotating basis throughout the county. They don't start, but they have some in North County, they have some in South Bay, some in Central, and then some in East County, and they rotate based on what week it is. So check that out on their website, which is sdfoodbank.org, I believe. Let me double check. Just so that, make sure I give you the right. Yeah, sdfoodbank.org. And then same thing, their main page has this sort of landing page, and then you just click on that Get Food Assistance button. Usually red, I don't know why it was green on my screen. And then it has all of their programs that are there, emergency food, neighborhood. There's also a senior food program. That one does have the requirement that you need to bring documents with you. It says valid ID with date of birth. It is for seniors 60 and over, so they do want to certify that you are 60 or over. It says proof of address. I think it's only proof of address in San Diego, so just making sure that you're a resident of San Diego. It doesn't say that you have to go to a specific one based on where you live. I think they just want to verify that you're a resident. They also do have a diaper bank program. That information, there's a list on there of all of the different sites, and then has processing qualifications, and then there's a phone number. So if you're a family in need of diapers, there is a resource out there for you as well. Lots of different ones sort of also spread out throughout the county. Each one has different, what's it called, eligibility criteria. So if that is something that you are interested in, check that link out. The resources that I think that I just found out about that are actually really cool. There's Pandemic EBT, which is geared towards families with children. As schools are closed and as kids are at home, a lot of these kids, were getting at least two meals per day at school. So, kids are home, schools are closed. Some families have multiple kids. So that sort of increases the amount of groceries that family has to buy. It increases the amount of meals that are being eaten at home. And there's a definite economic impact from COVID. Families have seen a drop in income from reduced hours, lost jobs, lost wages. So with that, the regular food stamps program sort of expanded. So what they're doing is anybody who's already receiving food stamps or any child who is eligible for a free or reduced lunch, the family can get $365. It's a one-time payment, but it is per child. So family, mom, dad, and three kids, that is $365 for all three, but it is one time. So this says most families with children who applied for CalFresh or Medi-Cal do not need to apply a second time to receive the card. They should receive their pandemic EBT card in the mail during the month of May. And this website says that cards were sent out May 12th through the 22nd. So then it also says, if the family has not received their pandemic EBT card in the mail by May 22nd, which was last week, you must apply online before June 30th. The link to apply for that, you can find that on the San Diego Food Bank website, or if you just go to the San Diego Health and Human Services website, where you would find information about food stamps or even 211. They should have the link on there as well. Or you can just reach out to me, reach out to the center, and I can direct you on where to go, how to apply for that. Pandemic EBT. There's also the neighborhood school lunch program. So with that one, basically any child 18 or younger can go to any school site that's handing out meals and get a meal. They don't have to be a student at that school. They don't have to be a student of that district. Some of the school districts have allowed parents to pick up meals, but they're asking that they bring like a student ID or a photo of the child, I guess, just as proof that they are picking up food for a child. Each school district operates differently. Sorry. School districts are sort of all throughout San Diego County are participating. You can check with your local school district. You can check on the San Diego County Board of Education website. There is a more comprehensive list there, and they have some of the like dates and times because they're all different. So like San Diego Unified, for example, does it Monday through Friday. They don't do Saturday and Sunday distributions, but they give an extra meal on Thursday and Friday to sort of get through the weekend. Some of the other districts do 5 meals at a time. Some do 1 day a week, so it just sort of varies. So I just urge you to check with your local school district if that's something that you think you might be interested in. Like I said, the San Diego County Board of Education has that on their website as well. Trying to see if I can pull that up. It's the Office of Education, sorry, not the Board of Education. The San Diego County Office of Education. They have a list here. So we go to the main website, and then on the It'll be on the right side of the screen. Scroll down, and there's a little food service thing. It's a little link down there, and then it pulls up this list. The list is updated, it looks like, several times per week. So then that's there, and then each one has a different date, time, different schools. But like I said, anybody under 18 basically can go to any school site. So if you if you have a high schooler at home, but the closest school to you is an elementary school, that the high school student can go to the elementary school to get food. They don't differentiate that way. Okay, that's it for my food resources. I wish that there was more information about testing. I know that LA County has sort of piloted their free tests for all. I know that San Diego is sort of ramping up testing and doing a lot more. Unfortunately, I don't know that there are any sites where the public can get tested while asymptomatic. I think, if you're getting a test, you still have to have symptoms, you still have to be referred by a doctor. Unfortunately, I think they're working on it. It's just not happening fast enough. Yeah. So that's that. I think the other thing that I really wanted to sort of chat about is mental health, and just making sure that you're checking in with family and checking in with friends. Reach out. Everybody's sort of going through this in a different way. I know that when I talk to friends or family members, there's been a sort of collective feeling of like being on a roller coaster, where people have 2 or 3 days of feeling like, okay, I got this, and I can keep going, and I can do this for another week, and then they'll sort of reach the bottom of the roller coaster hill, if you will, and just really feel anxious or sad or depressed about the entire situation, and just sort of, like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. In a time like this, I think, where there's so much uncertainty, I've mentioned this before, just really being kind to yourself, really checking in and allowing yourself to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. If in that moment you're feeling sad, just, allow yourself to be sad, and that's okay. Not saying that you're going to stay that way forever, but, a lot of times the fact that we have feelings about feelings kind of snowballs it. So where, you say, I'm sad and I shouldn't feel sad, so now I'm upset about being sad, it just, it charges it even more. And it just makes, like I said, it snowballs. You go further and further into it. So I think really just being kind and doing things for yourself. Self-care, I think, is really important. When people talk about self-care, a lot of it is, bubble baths and massages and spa treatments. And that's not all that self-care is or can be. I always tell people self-care is reading a book. Self-care is making yourself a hot cup of tea. Turning off the TV, turning off your cell phone, not watching the news, not reading the news. Those things are all self-care. So just anything that you need to sort of protect yourself and protect your emotions, and to sort of allow yourself to be in a more positive space. I think all of that is self-care. So just making sure that you're checking in with yourself, check in with the folks who live with you, reach out to friends. We talked before about video calls and the video call sort of exhaustion. But, I think old school call on the phone, chatting, I think, in any way, shape, or form, text, video, phone call, whatever, email even. I think anytime that you can reach out and connect with folks, like this too. I think anytime, like I said, you can reach out and connect with people, I think is good, especially right now when some of us are isolating at home alone, isolating with our spouse or our partner or husband or wife or whatever. It's tough, and we're also used to, for the most part, most of us are used to seeing multiple people per day, whether it's at work or just whomever we interact with outside of the home life. So I think, excuse me, just making sure that we're still keeping our social channels open and reaching out, chatting, talking, sharing experiences. Everyone is sort of going through this in their own way. So reach out, connect with your friends, ask them what they're doing, what makes them feel better, what makes them feel hopeful and positive, and share same way. Share what makes you feel hopeful and positive. Share those ideas, and hopefully we can sort of start to lift each other up and come out of this at some point, sometime soon. So that's all the info that I have today. I'm always checking comments to see if there's any questions or anything that comes up. Like always, if you have any questions, anything that comes up between now and next week, contact info there, 858-657-6028. And then my email address there at the bottom, my chicken scratch, adcarranza at health.ucsd.edu. And email is probably easier since I'm at home, at least until we go back to the office and I'm able to check my voicemails on a more regular basis. But yeah, I'm always here. Questions in English, preguntas en español, whatever you need, I will try my best to help you out. So until next week, be safe, wash your hands, take care of yourselves. Bye.